If you bought or inherited a shotgun before 1988, there's a real chance it's worth serious money right now. This video covers 11 shotguns that collectors are actively chasing at auction right now. So let us find out if you got one of these. Number 11. Ithaca Model 37. The Ithaca Model 37 looks like a working gun. That's exactly why most people sell it cheap. But the pre-1988 Model 37, specifically the ones built before Ithaca's financial collapse and ownership changes, is a different firearm from what carries that name today. The Model 37 is the only major American pump shotgun that ejects shells from the bottom, not the side, the bottom. That single design feature made it the preferred choice of the NYPD, the Memphis Police Department, and multiple branches of the U.S. military during Vietnam. But here's what most owners don't know. Ithaca produced a military contract version of the Model 37 for Vietnam-era procurement, marked U.S. on the receiver, and those guns are now pulling $1,200 to $2,800 at Rock Island auction, depending on condition and matching parts. The standard pre-1988 civilian Model 37 in 98% condition clears $600 to $900 regularly. But the ones with the original plain barrel, solid rib, and correct buttstock markings are the ones collectors are actually fighting over. Ithaca went bankrupt in 1978, reorganized and changed hands multiple times. Every ownership change introduced new tolerances, new parts sources, and new compromises. The guns made before all of that are the ones worth holding. Number 10. Remington Model 31. Most people have never heard of the Remington Model 31. That's the whole point. Remington introduced it in 1931 as a direct challenge to the Winchester Model 12, and by every mechanical measure, it won. Smoother action, better balance, tighter tolerances straight from the factory. Gun writers of the era called it the finest pump shotgun ever made. But then Winchester had better distribution, better marketing, and 100 more dealers. The Model 31 lost the sales war and was discontinued in 1949. But that's exactly what makes it valuable now. Remington only produced around 190,000 Model 31s across its entire production run. Compare that to over 2 million Winchester Model 12s. Scarcity drives collector markets. Every serious collector knows this. The Model 31 in VG Plus condition is currently bringing $800 to $1,400 at auction. But the tournament and trap grade versions, the ones with factory engraving and upgraded wood, have cleared $3,000 at Rock Island. If you have one with the original box and papers, you're holding something genuinely rare. Most owners don't know it exists. The ones who do know exactly what it's worth. Number 9. Winchester Model 42. Here's a number that should get your attention. The Winchester Model 42 was in production for 32 years, but Winchester only made 159,000 of them in total. That's not a misprint. The Model 42 is a scaled-down Model 12 chambered in 410 bore, and it is the only pump-action 410 that Winchester ever produced at scale. Most collectors treat 410 as a beginner's gauge, a kid's gun, something you hand to a 10-year-old on their first hunt. But then serious collectors see a Model 42, and the conversation changes entirely. The Model 42 was introduced in 1933 and discontinued in 1963. Every one of them was built on the same machined steel receiver as the full-size Model 12. The fit, the finish, the action, identical quality in a smaller package. Skeet and Deluxe grade Model 42s with original finish above 95% have brought $4,000 to $7,500 at Rock Island auction. Standard field grades in solid condition regularly clear $1,200 to $2,000. But here's what separates the serious money from the average sale. The Model 42s, made after 1954, introduced a different extractor design, Guns made before 1954 have the original two-piece firing pin and the earlier extractor, and collectors pay a premium specifically for that configuration. If you own a Model 42, the serial number tells you everything. Numbers below 97,500 date to production before 1954. Check it before you do anything else. Now, I just want to take a second to ask if everyone who is watching can subscribe so I can keep making these videos for you all, and we hit the goal of 750 subscribers. Number 8. L.C. Smith Field Grade. L.C. Smith side-by-sides were made in upstate New York. That factory is gone. It burned down and it was never rebuilt. The Hunter Arms Company produced L.C. Smith shotguns from 1890 until 1945, when wartime material restrictions and post-war economics ended production entirely. Marlin acquired the name and attempted a brief revival in the 1960s, but those guns are not what collectors are chasing. The originals before 1945 Hunter Arms production are the ones that matter. Here's what most owners don't understand about L.C. Smiths. The grade system was extensive. Field grade was the entry level. But even field grade guns from before 1945 production feature hand-fitted actions, fluid steel barrels, and case-hardened receivers, with the original color still visible on untouched examples. Before 1945, L.C. Smith field grade in solid condition brings $800 to $1,500 at auction. But step up to the specialty, Skeet Special, or Crown grade, and you're looking at $5,000 to $15,000, depending on engraving coverage and wood figure. The single-trigger models command a premium over double-trigger versions. Ejectors versus extractors is another price separator. Ejector guns bring significantly more, and the Pigeon and Eagle grades, when they surface, routinely exceed $20,000. The factory is gone. The craftsmen are gone. The supply is fixed forever. That's not sentiment. That's market mechanics. Number 7. Parker Brothers Shotgun. Parker Brothers shotguns were made in Meriden, Connecticut. Remington Arms acquired Parker in 1934. They ran the line for a few more years, then shut it down in 1942. That was the end of original Parker production. Permanently. No revivals, no reissues that matter to serious collectors. The Remington-era reproductions don't move the market. What moves the market is Parker Brothers production from before 1934, the guns made before the acquisition, when the Parker family still controlled quality standards. Here's what makes Parker's different from almost every other American double: the frame sizes. Parker built guns on 8 different frame sizes, from the diminutive 000 to the massive 4-bore. Most collectors focus on the 12 and 20 gauge guns in the middle frame sizes. But the 28 gauge and 410 Parker guns, built on the small frame action, are where the serious money lives. A 28 gauge Parker in VH grade with 95% plus original case color has cleared $12,000 to $18,000 at Rock Island. A 410 Parker in similar condition has exceeded $30,000. But then even the entry-level VH grade in 12 gauge, properly documented and in solid condition, brings $2,500 to $4,500. The grading system runs from VH at the bottom through GH, DH, CH, BH, AH, and up to the A1 Special at the top. A1 Specials with factory documentation have sold for over $100,000. If you inherited a Parker and don't know the grade, find the frame. The grade is stamped there. Number 6. A. H. Fox Sterlingworth. Ansley Fox believed he was building the finest shotgun in America. He was probably right. But then perfectionism is expensive, and the A. H. Fox Gun Company went bankrupt in 1929. Savage Arms acquired the company and continued production until 1942. The guns made under Ansley Fox's direct supervision, pre-1929 Philadelphia production, are the ones that command the highest collector premiums. But here's what most people overlook about the Fox Sterlingworth specifically. The Sterlingworth was the entry-level Fox, the working man's Fox. But entry-level for Ansley Fox still meant hand-fitted actions, Krupp fluid steel barrels, and a standard of fit that most custom makers today cannot match. The Sterlingworth in 16 gauge is a particular collector target right now. 16 gauge fell out of commercial favor decades ago, which means pre-war Sterlingworths in 16 gauge survived in better condition than their 12 gauge counterparts simply because they were shot less. A pre-1929 Fox Sterlingworth in 16 gauge with 90% plus original finish is bringing $1,800 to $3,200 at auction. The 20 gauge Sterlingworth commands even more, $3,000 to $6,000 in top condition. And the Grade A and Grade B Fox guns above the Sterlingworth tier have cleared $8,000 to $15,000 when the wood and metal are right. Fox also built a small number of single-barrel trap guns, the Model SP, and those are among the most valuable American shotguns in existence. If you have an SP in documented condition, you don't need this video to tell you what it's worth. You already know. Number 5. Winchester Model 21. Winchester introduced the Model 21 in 1931. They never intended it to be a mass production gun, and it wasn't. Total production across the entire run, from 1931 to the end of custom shop production in the 1980s, was approximately 32,500 guns. That's it, for over 50 years of production. The Model 21 was Winchester's premier side-by-side double. Every gun was hand-fitted. Every action was individually tuned to its specific set of barrels. Here's what separates the Model 21 from every other American double gun. Winchester used a through-locking bolt system on the Model 21 that was stronger than the traditional Purdy-style underbolt used by most competitors. The gun was overbuilt by design. Winchester engineers knew it would be handed down across generations and built it accordingly. Standard field-grade Model 21s in 12 gauge with original finish bring $4,000 to $8,000 at Rock Island, depending on condition and configuration. But the custom and pigeon grades with factory engraving, upgraded wood, and beaver tail forends regularly clear $12,000 to $25,000. The Grand American, Winchester's top-tier Model 21 configuration, has exceeded $40,000 at auction. But then there's the gauge question. 20-gauge Model 21s bring a significant premium over 12-gauge. 28-gauge Model 21s are genuinely rare. Fewer than 1,000 were made, and they regularly exceed $30,000 in top condition. If you own a 28-gauge Model 21, you own one of the most collectible American shotguns ever produced. Full stop. Number 4. Browning Superposed. John Moses Browning designed the Superposed in the last years of his life. He died in 1926 before production began. His son, Val Browning, completed the project. The Superposed entered production at the Fabrique Nationale plant in Liège, Belgium in 1931, and that's exactly where the collector line is drawn. Belgian-made Superposed shotguns produced at FN Liège before 1976 are the ones serious collectors are tracking. After 1976, production shifted and quality standards changed. The post-war guns are not the same firearm. Here's what most owners don't know about the Superposed. The early production guns, pre-World War II Belgian Superposed shotguns, were interrupted by the German occupation of Belgium in 1940. FN Liège was seized. Production stopped. When it resumed after liberation in 1944, the serial number sequence had a gap, Guns made in that narrow pre-war window, serials below roughly 17,000, are among the most valuable superposed variants in existence. A pre-war Belgian superposed in 95% or higher condition has cleared $6,000 to $12,000 at Rock Island. Post-war, but before 1976, Belgian guns in Grade 1 configuration bring $2,500 to $5,000 in solid condition. But the Midas, Diana, and exhibition-grade superposed guns with full coverage engraving and figured wood have exceeded $25,000 at auction. The Liege proof marks are your authentication anchor. 2 crossed letters L beneath a crown. If those marks aren't on the barrel flats, you don't have a Belgian gun. Know what you're looking at before you sell anything. Number 3. Browning Auto 5. John Browning invented the semi-automatic shotgun. Not improved it, not refined it, invented it. The Auto 5 was the first successful semi-automatic shotgun ever produced, and it remained in continuous production for 96 years. But then not all Auto 5s are equal, not even close. The Belgian-made Auto 5, produced at Liege before 1976, is the version collectors are paying serious money for. After 1970 B5, production moved to Miroku in Japan. The Japanese guns are well made, but they are not what the market is chasing. Here's the detail most Auto 5 owners miss entirely. The Belgian Auto 5 used a different receiver machining process than the later Japanese guns. The interior dimensions, the surface finish, the fit of the bolt to the receiver, these are measurable differences that any competent gunsmith can identify. But there's more than that. FN produced several Auto 5 variants that are now highly specialized collector targets. The Sweet 16, the 16-gauge Auto 5, built on a frame scaled specifically for 16-gauge rather than adapted from 12-gauge, was a Belgian-only production model. A Belgian Sweet 16 in 95% plus condition brings $1,800 to $3,500 at Rock Island. The Light 20, the 20-gauge variant, commands similar premiums in top condition. But the Magnum 12 with the original round knob pistol grip and ventilated rib in 98% plus Belgian production has cleared $2,800 to $4,500. The serial number prefix tells you everything. Belgian guns carry a different FN serial format than the Miroku guns. If the barrel flats show Liege proof marks, the crowned oval with a letter E, and the crossed letter L stamps, you have a Belgian gun. If you're not sure, take it to someone who is before you price it. Number 2. Winchester Model 12. Winchester called it the perfect repeater. That wasn't marketing, that was an accurate description. The Winchester Model 12 entered production in 1912 and wasn't discontinued until 1964. And even then, Winchester brought it back under custom shop production because the demand never stopped. But the guns made before 1964 are the ones that matter to collectors. Here's why 1964 is the hard line. In 1964, Winchester cut costs across their entire product line. The Model 12 lost its hand-fitted receiver. The polishing was reduced. The internal tolerances changed. Collectors who handle both a gun made before 1964 and one made after 1964, back-to-back, describe the difference as immediately obvious. The action on guns made before 1964 cycles with a smoothness that the later guns simply don't replicate. But then, within the production run before 1964, there are further distinctions that separate average collector value from serious money. The Model 12s made before 1920, built before Winchester standardized certain production processes, show hand-fitting marks inside the receiver that later guns don't have. Early guns with a solid rib, correct period buttstock, and matching serialized components are the ones auction houses are competing over. A standard Model 12 made before 1964 in 12 gauge with 90% or more original finish brings $800 to $1,600 at Rock Island. But the pigeon grade, with factory engraving and upgraded wood, clears $4,000 to $9,000 depending on coverage and condition. The trap and skeet configurations in production before 1964 bring consistent premiums over field guns. And the 28-gauge Model 12, produced in very limited numbers, is among the most sought-after Winchester pump guns in existence, regularly exceeding $8,000 to $15,000 in top condition. There are over 2 million Model 12s in circulation, but the ones worth real money represent a fraction of that number. Serial number, gauge, grade. Those three things determine which side of the line you're on. Number 1. Pre-1968 Remington Model 870 Wingmaster. Remington has made over 11 million Model 870s. That number is exactly why most people don't take this entry seriously. But that's the mistake. The pre-1968 Remington Model 870 Wingmaster is not the same firearm as the gun Remington is making today. It is not even close to the same firearm. Here's what changed and when. The original 870 Wingmaster, introduced in 1950, was built on a machined steel receiver with internal tolerances and a surface finish that Remington has not produced since the late 1960s. The bluing on the early Wingmasters was a process Remington called their fine blue, a deep, almost mirror-quality finish applied over a polished receiver that required significantly more labor than anything in current production. By the late 1960s and into the 1970s, cost pressures began changing the manufacturing process. MIM parts entered the picture. Surface finishing was reduced. The tolerances loosened. The gun still worked, but it wasn't the same gun. Here's what most 870 owners don't know. The serial number prefix on a pre-1968 Wingmaster is the first thing any serious buyer checks. Guns from the first years of production, 1950 through 1952, carry a 50 series prefix. Those early guns, in 95% or better original condition, with the correct Wingmaster roll mark and unaltered stocks, have cleared $2,500 to $3,800 at Rock Island auction. But then there's the police and riot gun market on top of that. Pre-1968, Model 870s marked for law enforcement contracts, with the police or riot designation on the receiver, command premiums that standard Wingmasters don't reach. $1,500 to $3,200 for documented law enforcement contract guns in solid condition. And here's the detail that causes the most missed money in this entire category. The Wingmaster roll mark itself changed multiple times across early production. The font weight, the positioning relative to the receiver, the depth of the stamping, all of it shifted. Collectors use the roll mark as a dating tool independent of the serial number. If your roll mark matches the pre-1964 configuration and your serial confirms early production, you have a gun that the average buyer at a gun show will offer you $300 for. The actual auction market for that gun is 10 times that number. 11 million Model 870s in circulation means most people see this gun and assume it's a commodity. That assumption is costing real money to people who don't know what they're holding. Check the serial, check the roll mark, check the finish under good light. If what you're looking at matches what's been described here, you are not holding a $300 gun. If you own any of the guns on this list, the first thing you do is check the serial number. Then find the roll marks, the proof marks, and the original finish. Don't clean it. Don't oil it. Don't take it to a gun show until you know exactly what you have. Drop a comment below. Tell me which one you own.